This is a story from very ancient times indeed. It is said that in those days birds had not yet split into domestic and wild kindreds. In those days alchemical discoveries flourished, and so did the civilization of this particular nation. In those days gods and transcendent beings would wash ashore or drift apart from the other worlds. And in those days, shining across the subterranean realm was a red light. The red light of the Crimson Moon. The Crimson Moon of Khaenriah was introduced to us in the new Fontanian lore book, Perinheri. According to the book, the time during which the Crimson Moon lit up Khaenriah's sky was called the Crimson Moon Dynasty. This was followed up by the Eclipse Dynasty, which ruled over Khaenriah up until the Cataclysm 500 years ago. But who or what exactly is this Crimson Moon? Is it one of the three moon sisters? Or is it the Abyssal Moon? From playing throughout the game, it is clear that the Crimson Moon wasn't first revealed in the Perinheri book. The first time the Crimson Moon was revealed was 3 years ago in the Cataclysm cutscene in the sky behind the corridor through which the Abyss Twin is seen to be running. The Crimson Moon is also mentioned in Dainsleif's character card, which states that chalk pursues gold. In this time inopportune, the eclipse is swallowed by the Crimson Moon. Another possible place of mention of the Crimson Moon could be from this particular Sumeru achievement called La Luna Rossa. La Luna Rossa translates to the Red Moon in Italian, and also the description of this achievement is, across this vast chessboard, what horrors have been enacted under the light of this blood-red moon. The fact that the Crimson Moon was seen during the Cataclysm could mean that the Crimson Moon signifies calamity, and so La Luna Rossa could have signified the fall of Gurabad in Sumeru. Now back in the Perinheri book, the Crimson Moon is mentioned as an illusion seen by Perinheri while crossing the hearth within the orphanage. The Crimson Moon, hanging high in the pitch-dark night sky, suddenly turned around, revealing itself to be a titanic, horrified eye. If you take a look at the Crimson Moon from the Cataclysm trailer, you can see that it perfectly resembles the moon which we see deep within the spiral abyss. Moreover, the craters on these moons perfectly resemble the moon that orbits Earth in real life. Now these craters are called Mars of the Moon, and each one is individually named. But the most interesting crater is the one called Mare Orientale, which can only be seen when you turn the moon around. Just like how the Crimson Moon in Genshin turned around to reveal a titanic eye, if you turn around our moon, you can see the crater Mare Orientale, which also looks like an eye. But that's not what's interesting. What's interesting is that Mare in Latin means sea, with Mare Orientale meaning Eastern Sea. And coincidentally, within the Perinheri book, it tells of a story of how people used to believe that gods came from the sea, even though there was no sea within the kingdom's borders. So according to the new information we just learned about the moon's Mars, maybe what Perinheri meant to say was that the gods actually did not come from the sea, but came from the moon. This could be backed up by how we found Paimon, who is suspected to be a moon sister, also from the sea. Now given that the gods might have come from the moon, it could be possible that the Crimson Moon could have been Khaenriah's god, and that Khaenriah was not always a nation without a god. Also, if you take a look at the deathly statue drop, what it seems to be missing is an eye, particularly a red or a crimson eye. This could be a reference to the eye of the Crimson Moon, and could also possibly suggest that Khaenrian rulers might have been related to or were descendants of the Crimson Moon, or had its blessings. Just like how we have the blessings of the Abyssal Moon and the blessings of the Welkin Moon, Khaenrian rulers could have been people who received the blessing of the Crimson Moon. Now given that the Crimson Moon resembles the moon in the spiral abyss, it could be that the Crimson Moon is actually one of the three moon sisters. The eye being described as horrified could be because of how the moon sisters fought and killed each other. And just like how the corpse of one moon sister lights up the night sky of Teyvat, it could be possible that what lights up Khaenriah was the corpse of another moon sister, the Crimson Moon. This could also be why Khaenriah was called a nation without a god, because their god, the Crimson Moon, was dead. Coming back to Daneslave's character card, that which was said by a self-proclaimed prophet about the future. Chalk pursues gold. In this time inopportune, the eclipse is swallowed by the Crimson Moon. Now the three stages of alchemy are said to be Nigredo, Albedo and Rubedo. It is said that in alchemy, these three stages of the magnum opus are also represented by suns. The first stage, or Nigredo, meaning blackness, is said to be represented by Sol Niger, or the Black Sun. And from Perinheri, we know that what succeeded the Crimson Moon dynasty was the Eclipse dynasty, also known as the Black Sun dynasty. Now, according to astronomy, a black sun is seen during a solar eclipse when the moon is aligned between the sun and the earth. Even though it is called black sun, the black part of the solar eclipse is actually the dark side of the moon, which faces the earth. So just like how the eclipse will be swallowed by the Crimson Moon, in alchemy, Nigredo is followed by Rubedo. And just like how Nigredo is represented by the black sun or the dark side of the moon, Rubedo could be represented by the Crimson Moon.